Okay, please, what do you have there, please? What do you have on conflict circle?
Okay, on conflict cycle, it is generally believed that conflict most times evolve in a cyclical pattern that are closely
Okay,
related. One,
okay,
latent phase. This is the first phase
yes,
of the conflict cycle where conflict is dormant and barely expressed by the conflicting side that may not even
wonderful,
be conscious of their conflicting interests or values.
wonderful, wonderful. So at that level, it is dormant. Please
Yeah.
continue.
2, manifest phase. At this phase, conflicting parties express their demands and grievances openly, but only by legal means. 3, the violent phase. This phase is characterized by direct physical attacks and confrontation, leading to spilling of blood and loss of life of both conflicting parties and innocent people, which thereby produce additional motives for struggle elongation.
Okay,
4. Okay.
wonderful.
4.
Now the manifest
Escalation.
phase.
Okay.
Yes, the manifest phase. You said something about grievances. Now we have grievances are being channeled towards each other, but it is through which means?
Legal means.
Wonderful. The next one, please.
The next one is the escalation phase. Under this stage, violence breeds more violence, which produces an escalatory momentum. That is, the larger the struggle has lasted, the more destructive it has become.
Now, a lot of stages, phases has occurred. Conflict is yet to be resolved. And that's why it has gotten to this level. That's the point. Do you get it, ma?
Yes, sir, I do.
Wonderful. So I want us to go straight ahead to, there are still a lot of phases which I know of. All right, but I want us to just go straight to the conflict handling styles. What do you have on the conflict handling styles?
On the conflict handling styles, we have the assertiveness. This is the extent to which individual attempts to satisfy his needs and concerns. We have the cooperativeness. This explains the existence to which a person attempts to satisfy his needs and concerns as well as the other person's needs. We have
so the first one, the person is more of selfish and self-centered.
Yes.
Also,
we have the dominating / competing style. This takes place when an individual is very assertive and not cooperative. Such a person pursues his own concerns at another person's expense.
You can imagine.
The other one is accommodating style. This is when a person is unassertive and cooperative. It is also the opposite of competing. And it also shows that you neglect your own concerns to satisfy the concerns of the other person.
Wonderful, wonderful.
And we have the avoiding. Okay,
let's stop there. I know there are a list of, we still have one or two of them there.
Yes.
Now there's a second model, which is called the model 2 for conflict handling style. Under the model 2 of conflict handling style, it says there are 3 major headings or classification. All right, under this model 2, what do you have on that?
Okay, I think I don't have that in my phone, in my on my book or in my book.
You don't have the avoidance / denial,
No, I
confrontation
don't have
/
that.
fighting.
No, sir, I don't have that in my book.
Now, just 3 of them under the model 2, okay, of conflict handling
Okay.
style. Just 3 points. The first one, we have avoidance. We have avoidance or denial. Here, you avoid conflict. And it's a very common way. The other one is confrontation. Here, you hold conflict by the horn. You confront. You fight. And the third one, problem solving. Here, parties in conflict listen, all right, with the intent, all right,
Yeah.
with the intent to resolve matters. So now, what do you have under conflict analysis?
Under conflict analysis, I have
Yes, please.
this is said to be a critical review, interpretation, and explanation of what is observed and recorded about the conflict situation. This can also be referred to as a process by which the root cases, dynamics, issues, and other fundamentals of conflict are examined, reviewed, unraveled through various mechanisms for proper and better understanding of conflict for several perspectives.
Okay.
So should I
Now,
continue?
do you mind just explaining that a little bit?
Okay. Conflict analysis here is said to be a method of reviewing conflict. The method of reviewing conflict and the method of explaining and reviewing conflict and interpreting conflict. And it is said to also be a process which analyzes, which showcases the root causes, dynamics,
Wonderful.
issues, and fundamentals
Yeah.
of conflict.
Wonderful. You know, when we say analyze, and when you try to analyze a thing, a
Yes.
situation, you want to do a proper dissecting, a proper breaking down of things to understand, to have a better
Yes.
understanding. You don't judge, you don't generalize.
Yes.
You want facts. You want to lay your hands on facts, and that's why you analyze. Wonderful. Please go ahead. What do you have under the categories of stakeholders?
Okay. Categories of stakeholders. We have the primary stakeholders, the secondary stakeholders, and the interested stakeholders. The primary stakeholders, they are those whose goals are or perceived by them to be incompatible and who interact directly in pursuit of their respective goals. While the secondary stakeholders, they
Okay.
are affected directly by the outcome of the conflict, but do not feel themselves to be directly involved. And the
Okay.
interested stakeholders, these ones have an interest in the conflict. They also stand to benefit from the outcome, whether peaceful or conflictual.
Okay.
So we
So you
have
want to explain a little bit, please?
the primary stakeholders. These ones are those whose goals are perceived to be incompatible. These ones are those who goals are their goals is directly in the pursuit of whose goals, there are those whose
You can
goals
take a
are
you can
or
take a
perceived.
pause. You can take a pause, glance through the sentences, and you can explain thereafter.
Okay, I think these primary stakeholders are those who are involved in the are indirectly involved in the conflict. There are those who are indirectly
Okay.
involved in the conflict, but they
Okay.
have a goal that they are pursuing from it. They have an interest in it. They have their own interest in it. While the
Now,
secondary stakeholders,
for that primary stakeholders, we can
yes,
refer to them as direct investors.
okay,
All right.
yeah.
Then the secondary,
While
both
okay, the
primary and
secondary,
secondary, they are directly involved. But the
yeah,
secondary, the outcome of the conflict, all right, affects
yes,
them. But what makes them different from primary is that they do not feel themselves to be directly involved, even though
okay,
they are directly involved. Now let's put it this way. For the primary stakeholders, their involvement yields return. But for the secondary, so because of their involvement yields return now, they are so much interested in the outcome.
yes,
But for the secondary, the results affect them directly because there is nothing good for them to achieve, or there's no good yield for them. They just see it as they are not directly involved, they are not directly affected, but indirectly they are affected. Do you understand that, ma?
yes, sir.
Good.
While
Yes, go ahead, please.
the interested stakeholders, they are the ones that have interest in the conflict. It doesn't matter to them whether it is peaceful or conflictual, whether if anybody hurts in the process or not. Their own is just their
No.
gain and their
Yeah,
interest.
wonderful. So I want you to go straight ahead to what we call conflict mapping. What do you have on conflict mapping, please?
On conflict mapping,
Yes, ma'am.
where 1979, he said that conflict mapping or first step in intervening to manage a particular conflict.
Okay.
And he also said that conflict mapping can also be seen as a graphical representation of the conflict in which the
Yeah.
conflicting parties are placed in relations to the situations on ground.
Okay.
So should I continue?
Yes. You might want to explain a little bit, please.
Okay. Ver or yeah, I don't know how to pronounce that name, said that conflict mapping is the very first step in intervening to manage a particular conflict. So conflict
Conflict,
mapping
yes.
is like a graph where you use to graph out the causes, or I think so, the starting point of how conflict started, and where you used to also solve the conflict at hand. I think that's what he meant
Wonderful.
here.
Now, let's break it down properly. When we say conflict mapping, from the word, we already know what conflict is. All right.
Yes.
So for mapping now, we are talking about a graphical representation, all right, of the conflicts. You want to know how the conflict started, considering the position of the parties involved. All right. So you want to, there are some of these things we watch on movie. We don't sometimes don't know that there are strategies. You see someone placing pictures of different individuals on on a board.
Yes.
Pin the pictures with red wool, connecting the picture to another picture, connecting to another location. Now, what is it doing? Is mapping
It's mapping
the progress
the
of
problem.
that conflict. Yes, how the conflict started, who are the prime suspects, where did it start from, who are the persons involved directly. All the persons involved, he has been able to gather their data, begin to map structures, and don't forget, when we say mapping, or when we say a map is a guide that points you to a direction. So by conflict mapping, you are getting guides, direction from all these processes and all this mapping. So you can dissect properly who are the primary investors, the secondary stakeholders, and those that are primarily interested. Mapping helps you to achieve all of this. I don't know if you get that, man.
Yes, even the shadow stakeholders.
Okay. Yes. So what do you have on that conflict tracking, man?
Okay, conflict tracking. This is a process which involves monitoring, observing, and recording the trend of change and continuity
Wonderful.
in the conflict process.
Yes.
So conflict tracking is after graphing the causes of the conflict, the situation of the background. Now it's time to track. Tracking is to monitor, to observe, and to record any changes or any continuity in conflict process.
Yes. Go ahead, please.
Okay, sir. We have the conflict analysis tools. These are analytical tools used by experts, namely, one, the timeline. The timelines are graphic that shows events plotted against a particular time scale. It also shows different view of history in a conflict. Also, it helps to clarify and understand each side's perception of events, and also facilitate easy identification of events that are most important to each side.
Wonderful.
B, the ABC triangle method of analysis. A, which stands for attitude, in bracket, willingness to change or remain in fixed position. B, which is behavior, that is agitation or demand or pleas or violence. C, context, that is the background of the conflict. The C method is onion/donut method analysis. This is a graphical tool based upon the analogy of an onion and its layers. The outer layer contains the
different layers. The onion has different layers.
One is the outer layer contains the position, which is parties want. Underlining this are the interests of the parties in conflict, which is what the parties want to achieve from the situation concerned. And the third layer are the core cause at the conflict situation, and that is the most important needs to be satisfied. So we have in the C method, we have the position, the interest, and the needs, which needs to be satisfied. Then D, we have the force field analysis. This tool can be used to identify the different forces influencing a conflict. It is used to analyze both positive and negative force in a conflict.
Negative. Yes, yes, wonderful, wonderful. So before we call it a wrap for today, I want us to go straight ahead to what it say. Do you have anything on that? The meaning of war?
Yes.
Please, what do you have under the meaning of war, ma?
War, like any other social phenomena, has various definitions which often mask by a particular political or philosophical stance paraded by the
Okay.
authors. According to Black's Law Dictionary, war is seen as a hostile contention by means of armed forces carried on between nations, states, rulers, or between citizens in the same nations or states.
Wonderful,
Webster's dictionary defines war as a state of opened and declared hostile armed conflict between states or
awesome,
nations, or a period of such conflict.
wonderful,
J-
wonderful, wonderful. So I want us to call it a wrap here for today. Our time is
Okay.
fast spent. So in our next class, we'll be taking it up from. Okay, just a moment. Okay, there are a lot of factors here. Okay, come and take us a lot of time. I don't want us to spend too much time on this. I want us to go straight. Heroes, all right? We're going to be talking about the heroes,
Okay.
all right? We're going to be talking about the theory, all right, of war. We're going to be talking about the ethnology perspective, all right, certain perspective to conflict as well. Basically, we're going to be talking about certain theories anyway. So it's more of theories of war in our next class. So thank you very much, Mrs. Deborah, and do have a wonderful evening. Bye for now.
Thank you, Priscilla. Yes.
You're welcome.